It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for my neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Welcome, boys and girls, to another episode of Living Hope TV. Today, we have a superhero surfer. Her name is Bethany Hamilton. She's a champion and inspiration to us all. And also stay tuned for a special segment of Good News Hawaii, right now on Living Hope TV. Oh, gosh, no try cut me off. I'm here with Bethany Hamilton. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah!
Aloha mai kako, aloha.
Welcome to a very exciting episode of Living Hope TV.
One of the worst fears in the world, especially in Hawaii, is a shark attack.
But today's guest, Bethany Hamilton, not only survived a shark attack, she thrived.
You know, many of us remember the news of Bethany's gruesome attack by a massive 14-foot shark. Bethany lost her arm that day, and it seems she also lost her lifelong dream to become a professional surfer.
But God, since that fateful day almost 20 years ago, Bethany became one of the world's top pro surfers and is listed in the Surfers Hall of Fame.
Bethany also inspired a major Hollywood film, Soul Surfer, and released a second film, Unstoppable, in March 2020, right in the midst of the global pandemic.
Bethany has also authored a book and became a professional motivational speaker traveling the world.
And the cherry on the cake, Don, Bethany got married and now has 3 handsome sons with her husband, Adam.
Wow, wow, wow. You can see why she's been called the biggest comeback story of our time.
We can't wait to hear from this super shiro, as Don would say, super shiro of faith, Bethany Hamilton.
But first, let's get a jump on today's Good News Hawaii. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's time for Good News Hawaii.
Want some hugs?
Awkward timing for right now, but sure.
No, not that kind hugs. Hugs, the local nonprofit that we're celebrating this month.
Oh yeah, right. I like those too.
Me too. Standing for help, understanding, and group support, Hugs is a local grassroots private nonprofit that exists to support the families of seriously ill children.
When a child is diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, we tend to forget it also significantly impacts each member of their ohana, emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially. Hugs supports the entire family when their child has a serious illness. How? Through completely free programs and support for every member of the ohana.
Each and every year, Hugs helps hundreds of families with children who suffer from diverse life-threatening illnesses through monthly respite programs for families to make new lifelong memories with each other, moms and dads nights to connect parents facing similar challenges, cope and support one another, and even annual SIB camps where siblings of ill children can feel loved and remembered and even have some fun too.
Woohoo! Don't forget about their annual Get Moving for Hugs 5K. It's a special event challenge that they are hosting next month, and you can participate and sign up.
They also celebrate the holidays with families and even provide Christmas presents to all Hugs keikis statewide.
Plus, they have a memorial garden at Sunset Ranch North Shore where families whose children have passed away can plant a koa tree in their memory to help them celebrate, remember, and heal.
One Hugs mom reflected on the organization, saying, "I have cried many tears since my son's diagnosis, and I felt alone and stressed without knowing how I can better help him. Hugs has been more than a resource. Being able to see and talk with others in similar situations helped me thrive. Hugs is truly heaven sent and helps my tears seem less salty."
Founded by a group of volunteers from Unity Church on Oahu in 1982, this year Hugs celebrates 40 years of changing lives here in our islands. From peer support to airfare assistance, even hospital visits, Hugs is a light in our community, showing us what it's like to be aloha in action.
Mahalo, Hugs, for all you do in helping every member of the Ohana remember that they are loved, that they are not alone, and that they are not forgotten. If you'd like to get involved or support this life-changing organization, visit their website at hugshawaii.org.
That's it for your monthly Good News, Hawaii. And remember, even in tough times, don't just look for good news.
Be the good news. Aloha!
Aloha, New Hope, Ohana. Welcome back to Living Hope. I'm here with my co-host, Don O'Brien, and our very special guest, Bethany Hamilton, with an amazing testimony, professional surfer. But there are things that you're going to find out about her that you never knew, that is so inspiring. So I'm going to jump right in. Bethany, you know, we remember you coming to our church services when you were 14 years old.
I shouldn't waste my time just sitting around moping. I should just try to make the best of it and just use it as a chance to tell others about God.
You came and you gave your amazing testimony. I remember how they said that you would never surf again, and you were able to surf again. And then they said you would never be able to compete again. But you won a national championship after the encounter, the accident. And you are now, I saw recently, even currently, with this latest WSL, World Surfing League for Women, you were ranked in the top 20. You know what I call that? I call that a modern day miracle.
Yes.
And so for our viewers out there, knowing everything that you've been through, what would your word be to our ladies and even men out there about what it took you, all those years and all of your accomplishments?
Yeah, I'm so grateful for just life and all that God has done in my life. And ever since I was young, I lived a life of faith. And one of my favorite Bible verses to refer to is John 16:33. I have said these things to you, that in me you will have peace. In the world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And I often just think of that verse, especially with everything going on in the world the last few years and just life in general. It can be just really hard for some of us or all of us at some point or another. And so recognizing that God warns us that life is going to be hard, but he also reminds us that in him we will have peace, and that take heart, he has overcome the world. And so when our mind is set on what God has done on our behalf, and that is what is filling our mind versus kind of getting overwhelmed by everything in the world and consuming all the things of the world, whether it's news, media, TV, communication with our neighbors. I think sometimes we can focus so much on the negative and the hardship, but we're need to just stop, slow down, and think about the beauty that God already promises. And I think if there's one thing, it's God promises that his truth will never go away. Yeah. It's his gift is ours forever, and that is our forever hope. And so just keeping our mind on that.
Wow.
Amen. Wow.
Bethany, it sounds like God's word really is a sustaining driving force, even a foundation, if you will. You also just touched on something that interests me, and it's talking to our youth especially about all of the useless junk that we see. Talk about how we should be guarding our eyes and our ears and our hearts.
Yeah, I think the world has dramatically changed from when I was a childhood to now being a mother. And I'm very much engaged on things like social medias, and I feel I have a place there for a reason. So yes. I try to keep that in mind as I engage in those sort of platforms. But I think young and old alike, we're all maybe victims of addiction in that area.
Yes,
and
absolutely. Everybody
could have a little reality check every now and then to hone in on why are you spending time there, and how much and how often, and how addicted are you, and just as a household, because now I'm in the role of being a mother. And so I think through everything a lot more differently than I maybe did before I had children.
Yes.
How am I representing this area in front of my children? And obviously my children aren't on devices, but they're so young. But I just try to think what do I want to model for my household?
Right. And it's not
so-
only the content that you're encouraging us to focus on, but it's also the content that you're putting out there. And speaking of that, I would pivot and now ask you, Unstoppable is the theme of it was the movie you put out in 2020. Wow on the timing, Unstoppable. It's also the title of your book, it's the title of your website, the theme, and it's your life. You go around the world telling people unstoppable. What exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah, so a lot of people knew my story through Soul Surfer, and then fast forward like 5-10 years later, started working on a short film that turned into this feature-length documentary, and we named it Unstoppable. And to me, Unstoppable isn't about being like headstrong, like perfect, like I got it all together, but it's more of like getting back on your board when you fall off, and like when you struggle and have a hard time, like keep going and keep pushing to be your best, do your best, to know just the purpose and reason you have here in this world. And yeah, like I like the word because it's kind of can be intimidating, but I also think there's a lot of beauty to it when you're like, well, God calls me to trust in Him in all things. And so if I'm trusting in Him and living a life of faith, like then I'm going to be able to overcome whatever it is that comes my way.
Right.
And that's like has like this hint of unstoppable to it.
Tell us about your family. I got to meet Adam. Tell us about your family, Adam, and how you all met. That's the Ohana part, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so my husband's amazing, really great guy. He moved to Hawaii about 10 years ago to do a Young Life ministry. It's kind of like a school ministry, and he was on the west side of Kauai, so he was like straight into Hawaii culture and just in the thick of it, and he loved it, and he had committed to stay 2 years at least. And then he met me, and then it was like he was stuck here forever because I wouldn't live anywhere else. And so, yeah, it was really cool, like just meeting someone that I think God had that right person for me. And fast forward now, we have 3 children. And I think when we found out with my first, like I just didn't feel ready for motherhood in that moment. And I think that's a really common thing. Like it happened sooner than I wanted it to, but I was like actually in the middle of filming my documentary. I was like 7 months into filming it. And so I was like, are we even gonna finish this film? Like, what are we gonna do? And I think in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, God's timing is so much better than mine. And I love just sharing life with my son Tobias, and then now I have 2 more boys, and they're just such a joy and challenge and just a beautiful aspect of life. So
related question, okay. I just saw you compete in the pipeline. I mean, just a couple of months ago. And I know that you have other things that we're gonna talk about. We're gonna ask you about all these wonderful initiatives and programs that you do, and as a speaker, motivational speaker. How do you juggle 3 children and all that? Because I know many of us, I have grandchildren. We do it as a village. The whole family, Polynesian style, jumps in. How do you do that? How do you juggle all that?
Yeah, no, I do. I like wear way too many hats. And probably I'm doing a little bit too much right now, but thankfully my husband and I teamwork everything. So he's just like, him and I are just intertwined on just about every project we work on together. And that's really fun. We work well together. I mean, we love each other as husband and wife, but we also work together and we just do everything together. And so, yeah, we're just able to bounce everything off of each other. And we have a unique dynamic for sure. And I have my sister-in-law, she helps me with things. And every now and then my mom and dad join in on the mish.
I just want to affirm you because, and the last related question, because I also watched The Amazing Race, where on national TV, you and Adam, it was around the world?
Yeah.
Around the world competed. And that affirms what you just said. I mean, you were one, and you all did so well. So congratulations to you and Adam on that. Yeah.
Well, today is a bucket list item for me personally. I've always really wanted to have a heart-to-heart with you as a superhero faith for our times today. Stay tuned. We're here with Bethany Hamilton. We'll be right back on Living Hope TV.
If I'm being honest, when we first came to New Hope, we were a bit nervous.
I didn't know anyone here.
This whole Christianity thing,
kind of weirded me out.
But we both soon discovered
That's exactly what we needed.
Here at New Hope, I found a place where I belong.
Where I found my new besties.
A place where my children can grow up.
And a place to grow old with a young at heart.
Here at New Hope, I found my voice.
A place where I can be creative.
And worship God with my whole heart.
I found freedom.
A second chance in life.
A place where I'm loved just as I am.
New Hope is home.
It's family.
There's a place for you.
So join us this weekend at New Hope Oahu, and soon you'll find that even today, hope is alive.
For more information, visit enewhope.org.
We're back on Living Hope TV with one of the great heroes of our faith for this time. She's called one of the greatest comebacks of our time. It's Bethany Hamilton. Again, welcome back, Bethany. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you.
You know, Dawn, it's not only about comeback, but it's about progressively going where no one else goes.
That's
and what I want to talk about is, so I shared with you that I follow the Women's Surf League and WSL. And again, congratulations on being back in the top 20.
Wow.
But Jaws. Okay, now, for our folks out there, you've all heard about Waimea. Okay, Waimea has the largest waves.
Eddie would
go. But then there's Jaws. And now, from what I see, the waves at Jaws are bigger and they break harder, in my own words. And so I remember that not even some of the best surfers will attempt Jaws. But you did, Bethany. That is unbelievable. So I guess my question about Jaws would be, in all that you've done, why Jaws? Okay, I mean, something that not even the best surfers will attempt.
Wow, low.
And what motivated you? But it was such a testimony to go where nobody even thinks of going. So if you could tell us what was going through that mind of yours, and then how maybe it might speak to people who are looking to just take things beyond.
That's good.
Yeah, okay, so ever since I was a young girl, I always loved surfing bigger waves, like just pushing myself in heavier surf. And I always think like the surfers that surf Jaws just have a little bit of crazy in us. Like we're just a little bit crazy. But yeah, so I always dreamed of surfing Jaws, and I had toe surfed it when I was younger one time, and then I went back and toe surfed it when it was like really big. Like the waves were like the size of houses. It was nuts.
Right.
Like one bad fall and it could be like disaster. But I don't know, I just always loved that. I love putting it on the line and just challenging myself to the max. And then I wanted to paddle it, which is like the next challenge up. That's really scary and really hard. And it was really fun, and I did get really pounded, but I did catch some waves, so that was super cool. And it just felt cool to accomplish such a challenging dream that I had, and just not letting the thoughts of like other people who would be like, oh, she couldn't surf there, like not letting that like hold me back, so to say, and just believing that I could and being willing to try. Like that's a big theme I really like. Just be willing to try and try again. And I feel like so often we just kind of like fizzle out or give up, or we set ourselves up to fail because we didn't like take the right steps to climb up that ladder slowly. But I had like a lifetime of preparation to surf Jaws, and I knew I could do it. Just had to pick the right day, and I had a coach, and I just went for it.
We're so proud of you. And may I ask, how big was the wave? Because 10 feet is like one story. So if it's a 60 feet would be a 6-story building. I just went in an elevator. I'm not going to go surf something like that. How big was the wave?
So I surfed it a few times, but like when I toe surfed it, it was like really big, like 35 or so feet, maybe more. And then when I paddled, it was more like 15 to 20 foot. But that was like arguably the scariest session of my life.
Huge.
But really fun and kind of just exhilarating.
You know, I shared with her earlier in the break that I actually used that illustration in one of my last messages about overcoming and doing the impossible. And when I showed the picture of you at Jaws catching that wave, the whole congregation just gasped. To us, it looked like it was 50 feet. But I kind of went, if that's how big she is, I thought it was bigger. I think you're just being humble. But anyway.
Hawaiian size.
Hawaiian, there you go, there you go.
And the difference between tow surfing, which means somebody is towing you out there, versus paddling.
Yeah,
Totally.
very different. Like, I think they're both really cool in their own way. So
Absolutely.
it's kind of like a little battle within surf community.
Which leads me to one of the great quotes that you often say, and I loved reading it. You said, I'm not asking for easy, I'm asking for possible. And God says, with him, all things are possible. Is this, tapping on the massive waves that you've confronted and overcome, is this what you communicate to the young moms and their keiki that you've been inspiring? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think like for me, it's just communicating this message of, I don't know, I think like our greatest calling in life is to receive from God, like more so than to do. And I think when we are able to receive the grace of God in our life, then that propels us forward and helps us to overcome the challenges and to better love our neighbor. So I really try to communicate that with my own children. Like when they do something wrong, it's like, hey, that was wrong, but I love you. And just because you did something wrong doesn't mean I love you any less. And so just kind of communicating this message is when we're at peace and in our identity is rooted in God, then we're able to go and do that much better in life and just be at peace with the challenges that we may face and go through, or just be able to work through the challenge because we have that ultimate underlying peace that only God can give us. So I think with such a challenging world that we live in now, just really grounding ourselves and filling our minds with the goodness of God is so important. And then because we know, as God said, in this world you will have challenge and trouble. So just being ready for that mentally.
Wow, that was really powerful what you just said, that one of the greatest things we can do is simply receive from God. That was great because, too often we can get into this rut as Christians or as motivational speakers. Oh, the 7 habits of highly effective leaders or the 7 secrets of financial success. And we are about the do, but we are human beings. And it's about first receiving that download. Thank you for saying that, Bethany.
Yeah. Tell us about the Ohana Experience. I think it is an initiative or a program that we're hearing about. And it's very current. Can you tell our viewers out there, what is the Ohana Experience and how it may be available for some, and what people can accomplish through this?
Yeah, so okay, after I finished working on my documentary, that was a 5-year project. It took a long time. It captured from childhood to motherhood, and then we released it right in the pandemic, and it kind of flopped, but the film's still really beautiful.
Yes, it is.
And then after that was done, I was like, okay, what do we want to do next, hun? And I just feel like there's such a need in our current generation of young people to just be encouraged and just cheered on to choose an amazing life and choose just the life that God calls for us. And so we started with making online courses. It's a 12-step course. So it's called The Unstoppable Life. And then now fast forward to this last year, kind of took the courses and turned it more into this Ohana program. So currently we have mother-daughter program. It's 90 days. We spend time on Zoom every week talking about really important subjects, a lot of subjects that even parents don't want to talk about. So it's been really fun. And then finishing in Kauai with a surf day and retreat out there. And it's been cool to just see we've had young girls who are suicidal or super anxious, just really struggling in life. Just a lot of people going through a lot, and being able to hear from their moms the light that they could see in their daughter once again. And so I feel like I'm in the place where I'm meant to be, and eventually I want to do a father-son program and a family program, Ohana prep, just keep expanding on different Ohana nourishing life things like to help bring us back together. I think our relationships are being pulled apart, and a lot of that has to do with culture and like go, 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 and do, and social media, this and that, and like I think a lot of it tears us apart. So bringing us back together through conversation, through time together, through just like being able to forgive and like let go and communicate better, but also to like trust in God, and like so it's just been really fun. And
you are spot on, and the reason being is as believers we know that God first, family second.
So good.
And so for our viewers out there now, this Ohana Experience, is it year-round, or tell us more about how they can get involved? Does it happen every so often, and how can they reach out to be a part of the Ohana Experience?
Yeah, so you guys can check me out on BethanyHamilton.com. That's where all my information's at. But as of now, I mean, it's super fresh. We just finished our first program, but we're doing 90-day stints. So yeah, we're just about to launch another one in about a month, and then I want to keep doing it because I really love it, and then eventually like launch the father-son program that like my husband would more lead, but I would like sneak in a little bit. He came in for a couple of hours when we were talking about dating relationships for the teenage girls.
Nice.
But yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
BethanyHamilton.com for the full family experience. And we've had a full time with Bethany Hamilton. Again, you can catch her at BethanyHamilton.com or on social media, but not too much social media, according to the Bethany Hamilton, the real deal. So thank you for today. Any last one word you want to impart to our Ohana? Living Hope TV is all about good news in tough times. What's one word of impartation you would give to our Ohana?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think just continue to fill our minds with like, what's the verse? Whatever.
Focus on that which is good.
Yeah, focusing on like good and true and beautiful things. Like God calls us to focus on the good things, and I think we're living in times where you can really get caught up thinking on all the negative and all the not so good. So just focusing on our minds on God's word and what He calls it on our lives, and we're going to be able to be unstoppable.
Unstoppable. I love that.
I love it. Well, thank you for joining us. And again, thank you to your Ohana, to the whole family on Kauai. We'll be right back with a little bit more on Living Hope TV. I say this every time, but I really mean it. We have the best guests with the greatest life stories.
Right. Seriously. Just talking with Bethany was almost surreal. And definitely supernatural.
She really is unstoppable. Her determination and fierce faith to know that God made her to be great and that she knows that we all can be unstoppable too. Wow, simply wow. Now that's a message we all need today, especially our kids.
You know, Dawn, one of her famous quotes says, "I don't need easy, I just need possible." I'd match that with one of God's famous quotes, "Through Christ, all things are possible." So if Bethany says she just needs possible, then God says done. And she sure has done and won.
Thank you again to Bethany and her Ohana for sharing precious time with us of great inspiration and fresh revelation.
And thank you to you, our viewing Ohana. Mahalo for another precious time together. It's our prayer that you will always have a living hope. Aloha.